Hello, it's Professor Welch. I wanted to give you an introduction to this week's activities and amplify what the differences are from the earlier parts of the course and then also from our work last week. So the first thing that we want to do is discuss this concept of deliberate practice that we've been doing. So we saw that the first 6 weeks of the course were a journey, the first 6 lessons of the course were a journey through the precepts of the textbook, and the textbook is fine, it's excellent. But as you can see, I wanted you to do a couple of things as we talked about last week, and that's to lay a great foundation for delving into specific applications and assignments. So we spent our time last week on Free Code Camp, and I want you to realize as you do these activities, it's much like when you learn coding and you learn a new language at the same time. We don't learn programming languages. If that's what we do, we fail. We learn how to express a thought or express an algorithm using an appropriate programming language. And part of our familiarity with the programming language is to understand all the libraries and the packages and become a master practitioner, because that's our art. It's very much the same thing when I ask you to design a project or when I ask you to work through an assignment. So you can see Free Code Camp has a philosophy of work and master, and there's no limit there. And that's really the bubble that I want to pop for you, is that there's no limit in this work, and popping that bubble for you is important for this particular course, but more importantly, it's a necessity. It's an absolute necessity for your professional development going forward. So what we want to do is we want to look at our lessons here, and the lesson adjustment that we're going to see this week is very similar to the lesson adjustment that we saw last week. So we saw last week we spent our time on deliberate practice, and we used Free Code Camp, and I hope you enjoyed the work. So I want you to be reflective for this next 2 weeks, just as you did for Free Code Camp. So the activities for this week mirror the activities for Free Code Camp, except for this week, what I will ask you to do is use Udacity. And I think there's no better organization right now that exists that embodies the learning demands of a knowledge worker than Udacity does. They set a very high bar, which a lot of places do, but what they do is they give you the skills and the courses to scaffold up to the knowledge and the applications that you need to know. I think Udacity has got education right. I think they move at a cycle time that's probably on the order of about 8 to 10 times faster than an average college. It's not that it needs to be fast, but it needs to be relevant, and certainly Udacity is relevant. So maybe some of you have some experience with Udacity. If you haven't, I want to use this week as the opportunity to introduce it to you. So first of all, Udacity is just tremendous, and you can see they have these chunks of certifications called nano degrees, and those nano degrees are world changing. You can see artificial intelligence, VR developer, self-driving car engineer. There's no university at the 4-year level, and in many cases in the postgraduate level, that has degrees or courses in this area. Now that's not why we're here. The reason we're here is not to do a nano degree. We're not going to do this. What our goal is to do some specific courses. So we want to look at the catalog. This is the catalog of all the Udacity courses, and these courses, as you can see, they're generally described as beginner, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And that doesn't mean that the beginner courses are necessarily easy, because some of the beginner courses are extremely well done. The Python programming course is an introduction with a professor from Virginia Tech. It's a great class. But what we're going to do is, let me go ahead and pull it up here. So I'm going to ask you to do the 2 courses. This is one of them. The first one is Introduction to HTML and CSS. And notice there's 2 projects there. And so I want you to work through this course and do each project. And as you conclude each project, I want you to upload your folder structure to the Blackboard site for review and grading. Now, none of these courses, you can take these courses and pay for them, which means you get a significant amount of support from the Udacity instructional design people. We're not doing that. Frankly, you don't need it. What we're going to do is take the course for free. So I just clicked on it. Notice start a free course. I want you to click on that. It says take approximately 3 weeks. That's not a good model. You can finish this in, I think, probably it's going to take some time, but you can finish it in probably a week and a half, or maybe some of you will finish it in a week. So when you click, now this is where you would sign up for it. Since I'm already signed up, I'm going to jump into my version of the course. I've gone through this course probably 4 or 5, maybe more times with some of my students. So what I have here are some of the courses that I'm enrolled in now, and I jump in and out of the courses quite a bit based on what work I'm doing with the students. So here we have the listing of the work product for the HTML CSS class. If you look over here on the left-hand side. And what you work to is as you're going through these, and you can see there are little segments of the module of the course. So this module right here, HTML, CSS, and boxes, has 24 little chunks, and they're really pretty little chunks. Then you have a practice or an evaluation event. Then you have CSS and frameworks, and you'll learn a lot about responsive design and frameworks. Some of it that we've already talked about before. And then you'll learn about Bootstrap. And then there's a final project, and we'll get to the final project here in a second. Now the question is, you might be asking is, well, why HTML, CSS again? Well, the goal that I want you to have going through this particular Udacity course is not to learn HTML and CSS. You will get some new perspectives on HTML and CSS, but I'm very comfortable with the knowledge of all the students in the class with HTML and CSS. So let's put that over to the side. Here's what I want you to get out of this course. There are some professional developers that present to you in this Udacity degree, and their thought process is gold. So you're going to hear from Cameron. You're going to hear from a front-end developer that Udacity uses called Jock. I want you to listen to what they say, because in many cases, students know a framework, students know a library, they know a language, but when I challenge them, or when they're challenged to do a project, the question becomes, well, how do I start? So listen to the developers talk to you when they start. And you might want to take notes on that, because it's a very useful algorithm. It's called workflow, and it's very useful. It's not like it's the hardest thing to understand, but it provides a sound basis for applying the knowledge that you have, and that's what the course is about. Now, as you get to the end of this course, I want you to do this project. So here's the project that you're going to do, and you need to do this project exactly the way you would do it if you're a front-end developer. So I want you to use the HTML validators. I want you to use the CSS validators. If there's code or HTML tags that do not validate, then you need to put a comment in there and explain that to me. So those are your validators. There's supporting material right here, which is the design mock-up, and that's just what it's going to look like. And you need to look, it needs to match it very well. So let me wait till that downloads here. So they call it a design mock in the class. So this is the design mock that you're going to complete, and you'll see as you go through the class or this little course, then it'll take you through all the steps. Now there's a project rubric. There's a couple of things that I want you to follow in this. First of all, there's an evaluation matrix there, and you need to use that evaluation matrix on your project before you upload it to me. I want you to look at it. So a lot of these best practices, these are the ones that you want to be on the ones that exceed expectations. And then we have these style guidelines. When you're in a professional coding shop, when you hear the word style, it sounds like it's sort of fuzzy and it's optional. It's not. A style guide is a best practice guide that's strongly recommended by your organization. So go through your code, go through your text, and your CSS and your JavaScript and your jQuery if you use it, and your Bootstrap, and follow these rules. So you might want to read this ahead of time so you get an idea about what your code should do. So consider that to be the HTML and CSS course. It's the Udacity course. It's free. I think you'll enjoy it. It's you'll know enough about HTML and CSS so you don't need to focus on that part. You just need to focus on the workflow, and then do the challenge as it lists there. Again, I want you to give me the daily reflections, because that allows me to see how you're doing. And frankly, today, if you're in class and you're just sitting there and doing the assignments that the professor asked you to do, like Sunday night, you turn on your computer at 6:30 or 7, and you kind of press through whatever the assignments are for whatever the course is. There's no learning that happens there. And the retention for that is about 3 days. So 4 days later, if you don't have a habit of deliberate practice, 4 days after you turn the assignment in, it's as if you never did any of the work. So I want to challenge you as you move forward to embody these precepts of deliberate practice. Now let's go back to Udacity, and we need to pull up another course. This course is a little bit shorter. I'm going to go to the catalog again. As I go to the catalog, I'll hit Control F, type jQuery, and the next course that I want you to do is this one. It's Introduction to jQuery. It also has an assignment associated with it, but jQuery, knowing jQuery well. Now we had our book, and our book definitely presumed that you knew jQuery, or it expects you to learn jQuery while you're working through it. And I think jQuery is different enough from JavaScript. I mean, it really is JavaScript, but the way that you apply it is a little bit different in format and application. But jQuery is probably, or definitely, the most used framework for JavaScript. So there's many different frameworks. So you can see the little note here. jQuery is the most popular JavaScript library or framework. There are other ones. There's React. And React is probably the other one that's most frequently used. But I want you to go through this, because I think it introduces jQuery in a very clear manner, and it also will cause you to understand the syntax and the DOM very well. So go ahead and notice it's a free course also. Go ahead and log into that, sign up for it, and then start working through it. And you can see the examples. Oops, sorry about that. Hang on a second, Cameron. So we have 3 sections here. This says it's about 2 days. So for the first course and this course, you should be able to get through it comfortably in 2 weeks and do the project. So there's these sections. There's the basics, the DOM, and the selectors. There's not tricks, but the way that we use jQuery for DOM manipulation. And then there's event listers. Remember, an event listener is a trigger that does an activity, and we want to see how we do that with jQuery. So that's what I want you to work on for these 2 weeks. Now, my goal for the last 2 weeks is to challenge you with something that you can be enthusiastic about, and that you can take forward to whatever you want to do for your next learning evolution, either in class or out of class, or within a business, or maybe you're developing your portfolio. So where should you be? What should your mindset be right now? Well, it's kind of like this. You've taken some courses, you get a degree, that's wonderful, but I'm not going to talk about that. If I was going to interview you, I would ask you to show me your work. And I would expect that you point to a portfolio, probably up on GitHub, and show me what you worked on GitHub. So what I would do is generally clone one of your projects on GitHub. I'd open it up, I'd look at it, I'd come up with a list of questions, and I want you to understand that people, when you sit in this type of an interview, they're enthusiastic about exploring your project with you. It's not a test. It's not a bar they want you to jump over. They're not there to be meanies. They're there to collectively explore this awesome field where you can do magic with coding. You can do magic with the pervasive presence of these websites. So enjoy the 2 courses this week. Remember, you should be very close to finishing the HTML CSS course by next Friday or Saturday. Then you can do the project, then you can do the jQuery. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much.